What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here. In this video, I'm going to be showing a build that I use to solo flawless every single dungeon this season. I wanted a Witch Queen themed loadout because, well, I just wanted to, and I figured what better than the exotic that came with the Witch Queen, the new weapon that came with the Witch Queen, and a weapon that came from the raid with Witch Queen. So before I go over all the weapons and stuff, I'm just going to break down exactly the build I used. One thing to note is this isn't optimal for every encounter in every dungeon, obviously. Especially Grasp of Avarice, I would say Well of Radiance for the boss fights is definitely better. And even I would substitute Witherhoard over Osteo for the Ogre and the Captain because, well, actually, on the Captain, Osteo Striga comes in really good for the yellow bars that spawn in, but Witherhoard is just a beast and it will be better for damage. That being said, Osteo Striga does do damage over time if you put 10 shots into an enemy. So it's really good, as you'll see if you watch my solo flawless videos, which I'll have releasing in order that they came out over the next 4 days. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the build that I use to solo flawless every single dungeon. Healing Rift, because we're going for a solo flawless, so survivability is very important. Strafe Glide, just because that's what I'm used to. It's also really good in certain jumping sections. That's our only option. Vortex Grenades, of course, they're so good how they pull enemies in now. They do a ton of damage, especially with Contraverse Hold, which I'm running. For aspects, we have Feed the Void. Devour is an absolute monster. It's great for survivability. It restores your grenade energy when you're getting kills with Devour active. It's just very, very strong, so that's what I'm running. And then Chaos Accelerant, because like I said, I am running Contraverse Hold for all these loadouts, so I can charge up the Vortex Grenade, which allows it to last longer and do more damage. So that's really good. For fragments, we have Echo of Remnants. Your lingering grenade effects have increased duration. I think this is about a 2-second duration, and that's really good because we have Echo of Undermining, which weakens targets. So this will allow the weaken just to stay on a little bit longer. As well, you'll see in some of the runs, that extra 2 seconds does allow me to kill enemies that are rushing me, specifically in like the Ogre encounter and Grasp of Avarice when all those little thrall come at you. Like I just mentioned, we have Echo of Undermining for weakening any enemies. It's a 15% debuff. So like I said, you'll get more mileage out of Well of Radiance for a lot of the boss encounters. But overall, this is very, very good. And on something like Kel Echo, the boss of Prophecy, you can't be stationary. So these grenades come in really awesome in that fight in particular. And then Echo of Expulsion, Void ability Final Blows cause targets to explode, and we get plus 10 to our intellect. That's really nice just because it's great for ad clear, and a lot of these dungeons actually have a lot of ad clear sections, which brings me to the exotic Osteo Striga. This thing is an absolute monster for ad clear. Think like the final boss of Shattered Throne. There's all those little Shadow Thrall or whatever that spawn in, or the Taken Scions, and those multiply. Well, this thing will take them out in like no time. The corruption spreads to them, and it just is amazing. I don't have enough good words to say about Osteo Striga. It is an extremely strong weapon. I've got the Enigma Void Glaive. My traits on this are Enhance Frenzy and Enhance Impulse Amplifier because I hate reloading weapons. If you're a fan of my content, you'll know I crutch autoloading like crazy. So anyway, that is why I run what I run. Increased reload speed, this increases reload, this increases reload, and I even believe the perk or whatever I put on this was an increased reload speed. So you can run whatever, but the glaive actually comes in very handy because I am running suppressing glaive. So there are times when I can suppress an enemy that is very oppressive. Think like the knights in Pit of Heresy in the totem encounter. Those guys rain down arc shots on you constantly while you're trying to deal with ads. If you can hit them with a suppressing glaive shot, it's really good. Same with the ogre encounter when you're collecting all the engrams in Grasp of Avarice. You can suppress those knights, and it just gives you time to deal with stuff and time to breathe. And then for my heavy, I have a God Roll Cataclysmic. You want Enhanced Battery with 4th times. This will allow you to proc 4 times 4th times the charm 2 times in a damage phase. So you can shoot something like 10 straight shots. So it's really good for damage on like all the bosses really. And then I've got bait and switch. This just got a buff to do 35% more weapon damage. And you just have to deal damage with your other weapons, which is actually really easy. You put 10 shots in minimum with Osteo to get the damage over time. A quick glaive shot, and then you're going to Pound Town with bait and switch. And you want boss spec for dealing with the bosses, except in Shattered Throne and Prophecy, you want Taken spec, obviously, if you have it. Now for the mods. I've got Melee Wellmaker. Just, it only costs 1, and I'm already running Linear Fusion Rifle Ammo Finder and Kinetic Siphon. This is really good for making orbs with your Osteo. So yeah, that's what I'm running there. And Melee Wellmaker does come in handy a few times. Elemental Ordnance, obviously we have Contraverse Hold, which you resist incoming damage while charging your Void Grenade. Charge Void Grenades, return grenade energy on hit. So we're tossing a ton of grenades with this build. So Elemental Ordnance will just be spawning up Void Wells all the time. We've got Linear Fusion Rifle Ammo Loader, Rifle Loader, for the damage phases. And then Bolstering Detonation to give us class ability when we deal damage with our grenade. That's really nice. So you pretty much always have a Rift or grenade up. That being said, you want as high as recovery and discipline as possible. I have really good stats. I'm very lucky because this does take away 20 discipline. With this build, I would recommend first and foremost 100 discipline and then as high of recovery as you can get. On the robes, you want thermal shock plating. Ideally, if you have artifice, you can run everything. So I have concussive dampener because, like I said, there's a few encounters in some of the dungeons with knights that have those blasts, and that will reduce that incoming area of effect damage from them. But if you don't have artifice robes, I would recommend thermal shock plating for solar and arc resistance, and then void resistance and no concussive dampener. And then I've got Well of Tenacity, which gives a 50% reduced damage from incoming combatants, I believe, when you pick up a well. And like I said, we have Melee Wellmaker and Elemental Ordnance, so we actually pick up a fair amount of wells. And because we're going for solo flawless runs, survivability is of the utmost importance, so Well of Tenacity is really good to run. On the boots, we have Font of Might. This will just increase our glaive damage when we pick up a Void Elemental Well. It only costs 1, so I just went for something. It didn't matter too much. I wanted as many seasonal mods as I could get, because like I said, I really wanted this to be like a Witch Queen focused build. So it comes in handy there. And then if you did have a Threaded Needle Linear Fusion Rifle, I have an auto-loading Vorpal one. You would get mileage out of Font of Might there because it's Void. I just wanted to run my Cataclysmic because, like I said, it's from the new raid. And it's still really good. That 35% bonus damage comes in huge. Glaive Scavenger, it's fairly self-explanatory. And then Linear Fusion Rifle Scavenger as well, just for ammo. And then the Bond. Again, I've got an Artifice piece. If you didn't have this, I'd recommend just getting rid of Bomber and running Overload Grenades, Volatile Flow, and Suppressing Glaive. Or you could get rid of Volatile Flow, because again, this is really only buffing the Enigma when we pick up a well. So it's not doing all that much work. So maybe Bomber would be better. Overload Grenades, even though there's no Overload champions in any of these regular version dungeons, it's still really good because it disrupts combatants, stunning them, delaying ability energy regeneration, and lowering combatant damage output. You still get all those benefits. It just doesn't stun, obviously, but it does all those other things. So delays their ability regeneration, lowers their output. So again, that's really good for survivability. And then Suppressing Glaive, again, it just comes in so handy. One place that's really nice is in the first boss of Prophecy. There's those 3 knights that are running around, and sometimes they'll just be just shooting like crazy at you. You just shoot them with your glaive once, and that will stop what they're doing and stun them for like at least 5 seconds, if not longer. So it really comes in handy there, especially when there's 3 on the field. So yeah, Suppressing Glaive is honestly really good. And the other thing that's nice with the glaive is the blocking. Again, we're going for solo flawlesses here. So sometimes you just can't be taking damage. You whip your glaive out, block for a bit, and allow yourself to heal up, or at least not really take much more damage, because the damage resistance is really strong on the shield of the glaive. But that's pretty much it for the build. Like I said, I used only this build for every dungeon. I didn't change anything other than when I first loaded in to Pit of Heresy, I was using an eager edge sword just to get around quicker. And like I said, this is not optimal. I like Top Tree Dawn for the first part of Grasp of Avarice and an eager edge sword, just for getting around way quicker. You can kind of skip that one section where you have to go into all the rooms. But we're not really going for speedruns here. We're going for solo flawless. I did them all in under an hour. I think most of the other ones under 50 minutes, just not Grasp of Avarice, because those boss fights are really long. And I did wind up 5-phasing the ogre. I did get a 4-phase on one other run, but then I killed myself with a Nova Bomb on the boss because I'm dumb. So I couldn't use that run because I didn't go flawless. But anyway, I'm rambling on. That is a build. It's very strong. You can use whatever iteration of this you like, but this build actually is really good for the dungeons, and I had a lot of fun getting it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the solo flawless runs of every dungeon. If you made it this far, then I thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a good day, and take care.